whole scene with her just pleasuring herself while praying to God, I was like, okay, this is random. We're going to talk about the Apple TV series called See. So See is about these people who are not physically able to see. They're deemed blind, and one day the mother, she gives birth to these twins who actually have the ability to see, and from there that's kind of where the story begins, where the kids are growing up and beginning to learn how to do things because of sight, and people are after these children because they are like the only ones who can see. Open scene, we have the woman, she's giving birth while everyone else is out pretty much fighting against evil. And that opening scene was great. I liked how they had everyone rallied together and at the same time, and they all had this like union where one of them was like not the leader, but basically giving the command of when they were going to drop the boulders or the rocks on the people, and I enjoyed that opening scene. As far as the characters go, I love how each character was so in tune with themselves and so in tune with nature. Like, wow. There were some characters who could really tap into taste, feel, because, you know, they couldn't see, all their other senses were pretty much heightened. And it was really impressive. And also thinking about, you know, blind people are known to be able to have very heightened senses. And something I learned after the show went off was that they actually had someone who was blind teaching them how to operate in life without physical sight, which was like, damn, they were dedicated. Like, and they did it for about 7 months. Dedication. It just makes everything about the show more touching and more important, knowing all that information. It's also messed up in a way how everyone was just so quick to just say, F those kids, let's kill them, they're gonna get us killed because they have the ability to see now. And Baba was just ride or die, and he was like, y'all gonna have to get through me. I can't take all y'all, but I'm gonna take some of y'all on the way down. And I was like, yo, Baba, yes, like stepdad, ride or die. Like he was definitely a family man about his family, and it's just a shame that the people really weren't that loyal. I also thought it was very, very, very intricate how they could just touch things and know what was going on, even though they couldn't see. Like the ropes, the strings, the beads, anything they touched, the trees, like they really were in tune, like I said, with nature and in tune with everything that existed in that world. And you could tell that they had been out there living for like years because of that. It's just very detail oriented. Another one of the characters who was really interesting was the Queen. The Queen's character, I mean, the whole scene with her just pleasuring herself while praying to God, I was like, okay, this is weird, but do your thing. Everything about her character is just unequivocally strange in a way. Her dramaticness and like all the scenes, she's just like so extra. I can't. She's like an extra Shakespearean actor. It's funny. There was also a scene where like Baba Voss looks at this guy, and I'm like, you don't care about bacteria. You don't care about bacteria. You don't care about infections, tuberculosis, none of that. He just like licked the guy, like cut where it was blood, and I was like, that's when I knew, like, Baba Voss, he a savage. He don't give no fucks. The Fresh Blood episode really showed the extent both of the parents would go to for their children, but in different ways. The mom felt like if she let them read, they were gonna leave, and she thought, you know, as a mom, as a parent, she was doing the right thing for them. And Baba Voss was just out here just killing. Something I also was interesting was when Baba Vows talked about his past and how he basically was a slave owner and he changed his life around, and how he would be told by his father how to torture and treat slaves, and it was like, damn, that was all he knew. So at that time he was this other person, and it kind of raised the question, like, could you forgive someone for a past like that, or just a bad past in general? And it also makes you think about who people were before you knew them. So interesting how with that story he was able to tap into his inner monster to save the slaves that he once used to abuse and treat like crap. So that was the irony of that whole situation. That scene where he went straight beast mode and like slit the guy's neck, I was like, oh shit, okay, you out here. Wow. He's like a whole silent killer. Okay, so the Silk episode I also really liked. I love the rock climbing scene when Baba was struggling to climb, but his kids were encouraging him to keep going and they lent him a hand. It really showed the love that the kids had for him and how they really cared about him. And, you know, technically Baba Voss is the stepdad, but they have so much love for him and he has so much love for them that he was like, he would do anything. He was rock climbing up to them. Throughout the episodes, you just learn how much he really cares for him. And that part, like, when he coughed up some blood, I just was like, no, Baba Voss. No, Baba Voss. Like, please don't let anything be wrong. Like, I felt like he's a really good dad. Okay, so the final episode I feel like was bittersweet because for me personally, it wasn't long enough. And I'm like, I want more. I wanted more from the season. I wanted more from that episode. I feel like it should have been 10 episodes. You know, maybe they could only get 8 episodes, but I really wish it could have been pushed to 10. I feel like there wasn't enough. And what was most disappointing, like, this show to me was great with everything. It was different. But the part where Jonah Morel, his character, it just kind of disappointed because it became predictable. Because I'm thinking, okay, they came all the way here, went through all of this for the dad to basically sell them out like we all kind of guessed in the first place. Like, it just would have been nice to see him actually show them what they can learn with their sight more and more, and not be a sellout and end up like giving his daughter away and locking his son up. Like, it was just really disappointing in the character. And I was like, really? Just surprising because this show is different. And I was really hoping that it would have been different, in my opinion. Also, side note, Jason Momoa's character, he really embodied that Papa Bear, like, character, that warrior spirit, and he was so equipped for this role. Also, Alfred Woodard's, her character played a really good role too. I mean, she was everything to them. She was the support. She was the wise older woman. She was like their spirit guide. She was just like, she was there for them. She was amazing. She was the midwife. Like, she played so many roles, and she definitely needs to get her credit, as well as the children. They did a really good job. You could really feel that dynamic of sister and brother between those two, but you could also understand, like, okay, they bickered and stuff, but like, you could tell they really liked each other. They really had deep love for each other as siblings and cared about each other. I mean, whenever something happened to the sister, the brother, he was on it. And it was just beautiful to see that, because it's based around family and love, and that was really important that they put that in here, and it just makes it so much more appreciated because of that. Would I recommend this? Absolutely, I would recommend people to watch it. Despite the predictable part with Jonah Morel, it is very entertaining. It's different. It's not like most shows. It's very informative. It has a lot of information. It's entertaining. And just like beautiful black and brown children and people are all up in this show, and it's just great. It's a beautiful thing to see, honestly, and the whole concept I thought was very clever and interesting, and it's not like other shows. You know, if you want to see something different, you watch this, but it did have its moments, but also it's still good. If I was to add on something or change something, I would definitely lose or change the last episode completely. I feel like it was good up until that predictable point. The show was supposed to be about family, and it was like he became deceitful. Their biological father was deceitful, and it was like all typical, you know. It had one of those moments, and it was like, why couldn't he just like show the kids what they can do with their ability to see more and more, how they can learn and just change the world, anything besides what we expected. Afterwards, I did watch a couple interviews, and I found out that Jason Momoa was actually fighting a real bear, and they had to put the pointers, and he had to like make a connection with the real bear. And I was like, yo, that right there, that's dedication. That is amazing. Like, because you have to block out fear when you're doing something like that, because the animal will smell it on you. And I was like, that's impressive. That's impressive. That's how you know you're dedicated to the role. And also, it was funny because he made a joke about like Leonardo DiCaprio. He was like, I use a real bear because that bear was CGI. And I was like, yo, that makes me want to give him like more credibility as an actor because of that. And also learning that they would go to different parts of the world and set up those trees and plant those trees and remove lakes. They would move water out of lakes and like start planting trees and made this whole community, and then they would take it down and go build it up somewhere else. And I was like, man, that's so cool. I actually got a message out of this. I don't know if it was like a hidden message or I just got this message. I don't know. But it was like kind of like we have all our senses, but we choose to see first rather anything else. Like that's the first thing that we do is we see and we judge. But what about everything else? All the other senses? Yeah, I don't know. Just a lot of questions I would raise. So if you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up and come below and let me know your thoughts about the show, or let me know if like there's anything else that's different and similar to this, or like something that's not like all the shows that's out there. And yeah, I will see you all next time in the next video. Peace out. Before I go, you know we have to continue the read aloud of my book Rain by yours truly T Outlaw. And it is about a group of young adults in a psych ward who have been living there for so long, and they've become adapted to it, and they're thinking, we're never going to get out of here. This is our life now. We can't really remember much that's happened. And they get this new counselor, and he's like, I'm trying to help y'all, but I'm also trying to figure out what's going on in this place, because I'm starting to see ghosts. I'm starting to be haunted by my past. I think these kids, they're all connected through some sort of maybe power or ability, and maybe they have superpowers. I don't know. You have to stay tuned to hear more. So if you want to stay tuned to hear me read more of the book and figure out where we left off, then we're starting now. Okay. I believe... Okay, so John Smith is actually at his boss's office, and he's like super nervous. He has really bad like anxiety and all that stuff. He's always freaking out like over the smallest things, and he thinks like, oh my god, you know, what if I'm gonna get fired? But in fact, the boss just wants to hear a rundown of what happened, and John Smith is explaining. So let's get back into it. We learned that John Smith is a army brat, as so the boss says. His dad used to be a lieutenant sergeant, which could also explain why he's like that. He's so anxious all the time because he's been yelled at so many times. And just that authoritativeness everyone gives off, it kind of intimidates him as a character. So let's finish reading. I clear my throat before answering. Well, they seem like good kids, very insightful, with boastful personalities. I try to sound optimistic. Really? Good kids. Ha! He chuckles, smacking the table. He lets out a huge exhale, leaning forward. You know why I hired you? He asks. Unsure, I search for the answer I think he's looking for. Because I'm young, relatable, and to make them trust me? Yes, you are young, attractive, perhaps even trustworthy. He stops midway, whispering cautiously, You're compassionate, kind, yet sensitive. I can see it in your eyes, Smith. These kids, they've never had someone of your caliber. Smith, you're special. He leans back in his chair with his hands clamped. Sure. We've had others like you who came in here thinking they were going to Help the children. Save the poor children. He pouts. He clenches his eyebrows together, mocking himself. The poor little children. Then he does something that almost scares the hairs off my flesh. He jumps from the chair, slamming his fist against the desk aggressively. But they all failed. Now he's screaming. Failed or was run out of this place. But you seem... He smiles, lowering his tone. Committed. Alright, the boss got some anger issues. He's crazy. Dedicated. Bit of an overachiever. But you know what? I like it. Yeah. I think they hate me, though. I mumble, abashed. Exactly. He gets up from his chair to push a button on the phone. A female voice answers. He asks for a drink. 2 drinks. The woman says, okay, then hangs up. She sounds uneventful and very robotic. He stands behind me as I sit stiffly in my chair. He whispers in my ear, they hate you but gave you a nickname. His words swirl around me like a massive tide slamming into a rock. Obediently, I wait until he sits to speak. They did? Of course they did. He bats his eyes at me, laughing like an exhausted hog. Smith, he says calmly, I think they're really gonna love you. I can just tell. He winks. Confused, I ask, what does he mean? How does he know I have a nickname without my knowledge of knowing? Kids talk. He shrugs. Gossip. I open my mouth to eject a question, but before I can speak, in walks a woman in red. In walks a woman in a red sparkly dress, carrying a tray of tea and 2 red liquid containers. This must be the woman over the phone. She walks in gracefully, sweeping the floor with her shimmer of elegance. The boss greets her. Her skin is pale, white, like a vampire. Her eyes are dead, dark, and black like death. She doesn't acknowledge my presence, just greets the boss, places the tray carefully on the table, and heads to the door. Hold on, Delilah. I want you to meet Mr. John Smith here. She stops to turn all at once. Hello. Her dress sparkles, almost blinding me. I remove my glasses, cleaning them thoroughly. I put them back on. Hi. I nod. She smiles, staring at me unmoving, not blinking, just peculiar. All right, Delilah, thank you. I'll call you if I need anything else. Without a single goodbye, she walks out. The boss picks up both cups. He offers me one filled with red liquid, but I quickly reject the offer. You sure? He insists. I don't drink, I tell him. Now this is a flashback. I don't drink. All right, more for me then. He smiles, dancing in front of me with thin hips swaying from side to side. So the whole I don't drink thing definitely triggered him because he had a flashback about someone else offering him alcohol and him saying, I don't drink. Smith, he gulps with satisfaction, then puts the container down. So, tell me, what do you think about them individually? Well, I mean, I watch him take another gulp in bliss. There's Kale, you know, such a nice kid. She's sweet, just like I was at her age. She reminds me a lot of myself. He interrupts, and a muddled kid. I ignore his comment. It's a shame. She's overlooked and misunderstood. She's a very genuine person who just, it seems, wants to be loved. He, the man corrects me. I bite my lip, deciding to stay silent. He notices, cunningly, and beams. Sympathy. He takes another gulp from his cup, finishing the first one. Yes. Then he gulps from what was supposed to be my cup. That's good. I like that. Now please, he burps. Go on. What a pig. Clearing my throat, I continue. And there's Tracy, who's a bit of a whore. He bellows. His breath smells of old wine, reeking of a familiar gross smell. I can't quite get my finger on the smell, but I know I've smelt it before. Perhaps dead fish oil? I really wish he wouldn't have called Tracy that name. It makes my blood boil. I try to conceal my disgusted expression.